fingerprints. Hindi naman pwede na nakita natin sa glass, sa salamin, yung fingerprint. And then, ganun na lang natin siya kukuhanan ng picture. So, we can use procedures and methods for us na mas maka-enhance yung itsura ng fingerprints doon sa glass para din hindi tayo mahirapan o hindi din mahirapan yung investigator na mag-identify ng mismong fingerprint. Okay? Tandaan ninyo, hindi lang tayo na basta for compliance. Okay, na-picturean na, goods na yan. Sabi lang naman, picturean eh. Remember, those pictures will serve as an aid in the investigation of the investigation of police. Okay, hindi natin siya ginagawa for compliance. It is always for investigation. Okay? So, remember din pala, palaging raw files yung gagamitin natin when we are photographing evidence. And then, yung mga fingerprints na kayang malagyan ng black powder or kayang malagyan ng dust. So, pwede na natin siyang, syempre pag nalagyan siya ng powders or dust, pwede na natin siyang kuhanan as is. So, goods na yon. Pero, if it is not that visible, we can add additional procedures para maging mas malinaw yung fingerprints. Okay? So, we can use papers, we can use oblique lighting. Pag sinabi nating oblique lighting, yung ilaw is nasa lower, nasa baba, yung mismong nasa low angle. Pag sinabi nating oblique lighting, naka-low angle siya for us to get yung mismong details ng fingerprints. Okay? So, ulitin ko lang, when it comes to fingerprint subjects, kapag dusted na yan, okay, sige, picture na yan, goods na yan, without any other special lighting. Pero the moment na kailangan niyang samahan na special procedure para mas maging malinaw, then we can add or we can use special lighting condition. Kadalasan naman, that is oblique lighting. Tandaan, oblique lighting. Okay? Pag oblique lighting, ibig sabihin nasa mababang angle yung light. So, okay. Next. Okay, fingerprints on glass. So, windows, drinking glasses, basta anything glass, pwede natin i-photograph yung fingerprint placing a white card behind the glass and using a low oblique angle of light. Kapag nasa glass, ulitin ko, yung fingerprint, we can use white card and low oblique lighting. Okay, yun naman siya. Kapag naman yung fingerprint impression is nasa clay or let's say nasa adhesive tape na siya or dust, so we can use oblique lighting. Well, basically, sinabi lang naman niya when it comes to fingerprints, use oblique lighting. Period. Right? Oblique lighting. Okay. So, standard operating procedures in crime scene photography. Lagi nyo nang tatandaan yung first and foremost, our general rule. Take as many photographs as you can and select the best. Okay? Take many photographs as you can and select the best. And then, of course, gagawin mo yun before anything has been done. So, photograph from several angles so that proper dimension may be shown. Ulitin ko, several angles yung kailangan yung kuhanan para makita natin yung tamang sukat ng mismo area and at the same time, tamang sukat ng mga evidence na nandoon sa crime scene. Another thing that is important when it comes to dimension, ang paggamit ng scale or ruler. So, for example, kinukuhanan mo ng photograph is a kitchen knife. So, way better na maglalagay, way better. Kailangan talaga meron tayong scale na gagamitin para makita natin kung ano talaga yung tamang sukat ng mismong kitchen knife na naiwan sa crime scene. Okay, so yun siya. Then right after mag-photograph, you have to record lahat ng mga data concerning the photographs. And whenever you need a special equipment like laser or ultraviolet light or infrared light, then you may call on to the laboratory. Okay? So on call po yun. At ang may role na nun is the forensic photographer. Okay? Those are some of the SOPs in crime scene photography. Okay. So when it comes to photographic evidence, lagi niyo tatandaan, hindi lahat ng photographic evidence is being admitted or being admissible in court. May mga instances na yung mga photographs na yun, even though meron siyang sabihin na nating value, hindi siya tinatanggap sa korte. Number one, hindi siya tinatanggap if it is not relevant. Pangalawa, if it is not authentic, edited, AI, especially nowadays. Kung madaling gumawa ng mga images na hindi totoo using AI, and of course, material. So, for us to make sure na yung mga photographs na yun is admitted as photographic evidence, kailangan they bear relevance dun sa crime scene. They are the raw files, hindi siya edited. Okay? So, yun po. And remember, si forensic photographer stands on the witness stand as an expert. Okay? So, best evidence rule in photograph. So, yun nga yun. When it comes to photographs, gaya ng sabi natin, it is not a legal substitute. However, there are certain evidence na hindi kayang dalhin sa korte. Kapag hindi kayang dalhin sa korte, then we can use photographs. Okay. So, issuance or release of photographic evidence. Lahat ng photographic evidence natin, once collected, yun po ay submitted sa crime lab. Because dun na siya sa crime lab, piniprint and all. Okay, so dun siya kinukuha. So, for us to get the copy of the photographic evidence, kailangan meron tayong formal letter. So, yung formal letter natin shall be addressed to the Director of Crime Laboratory. Okay? And then, sino ang pwedeng mag-verify ng photograph natin for accuracy? Of course, the person o yung mismong photographer natin. Siya lang naman yung may kakayahang mag-verify. Wala namang iba. Okay? Yan siya. The photographer who took them or any person having sufficient knowledge to say that the photograph is a faithful presentation there. Pwedeng yung kasama ni photographer during the time na siya ay kumukuha ng photographs. So, silang dalawa yung pwedeng magpatunay ng accuracy and relevancy ng photographs na nakuha sa crime scene. Okay? Next. So, rules on electronic evidence. So, that is e-commerce law of RA 8792. Next, techniques for demonstrating evidence. This one is the same with your ballistics. So, pareho lang din siya. We have our composite exhibits. So, wherein the photographs are placed side by side to show points of similarities or differences. We also have matching photographs. So, sa matching photographs naman is we are illustrating the similarities lang. So, that is our matching photographs. So, it is placed a part of one photograph over and in one careful alignment with the other. So, ina-align lang natin to check if there are any similarities. You also do have matching transparencies. So, sa matching transparencies, ginagamit ko madalas sa forgery. So, wherein a print is printed on a transparent film and then meron din naman sa isang paper. So, magpapatungin lang yung outline nung nasa transparent film and then doon sa mismong papel to check kung meron silang differences. So, sabi ko nga, madalas siyang ginagamit sa forgery. So, those are the topics under TOS natin ng number 2 for photography. Ang marami po doon is yung part ng exposure. Yun yung may pinakamarami, applying yun. So, kung hindi nyo talaga pagpo-focusan yung exposure, hahayaan nyo lang na, bahala na, manghula na lang ako, okay na yan. Mind you, ilang points po yun. Sabihin na natin na yun ay nasa 12 or 20, 15 points. Sabihin na natin, ipalagay na natin na gano'n. Pero hindi pala 15, mga 8 points. So, kung 8 points yun at hindi natin, 8 points lang pala ma'am bawi na lang kami sa ibang area. It so happen na, bawi na lang kami sa ibang subject. Hindi mo din na-review ng maayos. So, wala na. So, ito ha, minsan yun na lang siyang gagawin. Last yun ang gagawin ito. Gawin nyo na ng maayos. Okay? So, kung hindi talaga nagigets yung exposure, gawan nyo ng effort na magets nyo yung exposure. Huwag lang kayong umasa na sa bahala na yan. Okay, ma'am, okay na yan. Okay? So, ganun siya. So, last natin na TOS when it comes to photography is analyze the function, basic parts lang to ng digital and manual camera and types of lenses. So, applying and analyzing. So, yung camera natin is one of the elements of our photography. So, camera is the device that being used for us to produce photographs. So, camera is a light-tight box with gathering device and means of blocking unwanted or unnecessary light from reaching the sensitized material. So, meron tayong analog at saka digital. Si analog, yun yung nilalagyan ng film, yung roll of film. Doon nasa-save yung photographs natin. Kapag digital naman, saan na siya nakasave? Nakasave na po siya sa SD cards. Okay? So, yung mga digital phones ninyo, you have photograph and it's already visible with your naked eye, then probably that is a product of digital camera. Pero, kapag yung photograph na kinuhanan ninyo ay hindi visible with our naked eye at kailangan niya pang mag-undergo ng chemical process para maging visible, then that is an analog or manual camera. Yung gamit doon. Okay? So, sa digital camera natin, it is a camera that composed digital image and videos for later reproduction. The earliest digital camera that we have was the 1975 Kodak and the 1994 Apple QuickTake 100. So, sino ang inventor ng ating digital camera? That is Steve Sutton. Okay? Essential parts of a camera. So, the essential parts of the camera, meron lang naman yung 5. Essential nga eh. So, of course, we have the light or the light box or the body of the camera. So, ang trabaho nito is to keep the roll of film from any other light na tumama sa kanya. Because sabi ko nga, the moment na tumama, yung iba't ibang light, aside from dun sa ilaw na kailangan yung subject, hindi na natin magagamit yung film natin. Okay? So, kailangan kung ano lang yung light na pumasok dito sa lens ng camera natin at yun yung masisave sa film na nasa loob nito, yun lang yung importante. All other lights, hindi na kailangan. Okay? Next, we have the lens. So, it is designed to collect or to focus the reflected light from an object to form an image. So, this is your lens. Then, you also have the shutter speed. The shutter. So, yung shutter natin, yun yung nagko-control ng amount ng light na pumasok sa loob ng camera natin. So, we have the focal shutter and then we also have the central shutter. Okay? We also have the film advancer lever. So, ang trabaho nito is it moves the film to the next frame. So, yung film kasi natin, hindi ko alam kung nakakita na kayo, pero box kasi yan. Box mo yan. So, yung isang box, naka-fix siya dito. The moment na nag-take kayo ng shot, gagalawin niyo itong film advancer lever. Yung nandito, pag move dito, and then yung film na walang laman, magtatapat dito for another shot. So, ganun siya. Kaya after yung mag-take ng photographs, lahat ng film ninyo nandito. Okay? So, tas i-rewind nyo yan. Pag na-rewind niyo, babalik yung film dito, and then pwede nyo nang i-develop. Okay? So, yun siya. So, ulitin ko, ang trabaho ni Film Advancer Lever is to move the film forward to the next frame after a photo is taken. Then lastly, you have your viewfinder. So from the word viewfinder, ang trabaho po nito is trabaho, for us to see or for us to check yung mismong coverage ng ating lens. Okay? So yung lens natin, ibibigay niya sa atin yung coverage or makikita natin dito yung coverage ng lente natin. Then dun natin makikita if our subject is in frame and then we can take the photos. Okay? Yun yung essential. Okay? Essential parts ng camera natin. Next, main parts of digital camera. So of course, lens, meron pa rin naman yan. So these are piece of glass that refracts light to form an image. Then we also have the aperture. Pag sinabing aperture, yun yung mismong opening, yung mismong butas. Okay? It is the opening within a lens that controls how much light hits the image sensor. Ulitin ko, when it comes to aperture, the higher the number, the smaller the opening. The smaller the number, the bigger the opening. Kapag mas malaki yung opening, ibig sabihin mas maraming light yung papasok. Kundi pag mas maliit, ibig sabihin mas konti. Next, we have an camera's image sensor. Take note, ang role nito is it calibrates the light through a viewfinder or LCD monitor into an image. So, ito yung may trabaho na yung light na na-capture natin is makikita natin siya as an image. Yun yung pinakatrabaho ng camera's image sensor. May take note po. Tandaan yung mga part na to kasi lumalabas po sila sa exam. Board exam. Camera shutter, ang trabaho niya is to control the amount of light na papasok sa subject natin or sa camera natin. So, ito yung nag-open and nag-close. Okay. On how long the focal plane is exposed to light. Meron tayong dalawang klase ng shutter. We have the central. So, ito yung central shutter. Yung action nito is from outside tapos palabas. Sorry. From the middle palabas. And then yung focal plane naman, yun yung parang cortina. Okay, so from left to right naman yung action niya. Then we do also have the shutter speed. Pag sinabi natin shutter speed, yan yung duration of time na kung saan yun yung pagbagal. Tinitignan natin sa shutter speed kung gaano bilis siya mag-open and mag-close. Okay, so that is shutter speed. Focusing control, from the word focusing, ang trabaho niya is to focus our lens. Okay, to focus our lens and to get the sharpness that we want. Para yung image natin is sharp and focus. That is focusing control. Kapag ka naman, viewfinder, same lang ng function kanina. Let us see kung ano yung sakop or coverage ng ating lente. And then we also have the LCD monitor. So yung LCD monitor natin, dito natin makikita yung menu and settings ng ating camera. We also have built-in flash. So yung flash na yan is kasama from the word built-in. So it is a flash on our camera unit na kung saan whenever we need extra or additional light, ibig sabihin, we can use the built-in flash. Okay? Then we also have the main dial. So sa main dial, dito maraming nalilito. Main dial and mode dial. So sa main dial, tandaan ninyo, ang nakalagay dyan are the aperture, the shutter speed, exposure compensation, and other parameters. That is your main dial. So the other settings na kailangan for your for your exposure ay nasa main dial. Kapag ka naman mode dial, ang nakalagay lang dyan is it either automatic, kung meron tayong semi-automatic, at saka yung manual. Parang sa sasakyan. So kapagka manual, ibig sabihin, yun yung pwede nating gamitin sa mode dial. Doon natin isa-set yung camera natin for us na manually tayo yung magtitimpla ng aperture, ng shutter speed, nung amount of lens or amount of light na papasok dun sa camera. Pero the moment na nag-automatic tayo, ibig sabihin, wala na tayong ibang gagalawin. So, nakasetting na yung camera na point and shoot na lang. So, point mo yung camera sa subject mo, then shoot. Point and shoot na lang siya. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-adjust. Okay, so that is mode dial. Ibig sabihin, sa mode dial, nakalagay dito yung kung manual ba, yung gagamitin mo na mode, automatic, or semi-automatic. Kapag other setting ng camera yung hinahanap, yun ay nasa main dial, like the aperture, the shutter speed, exposure compensation, and other parameters. Okay, take note po, maraming nalilito dito. Then of course, we have the batteries. Without batteries, hindi ko mag-function yung camera natin. May both manual and digital. Parehong may battery. Then SD cards. So yung SD cards naman natin, these are tiny flash memory card designed for high capacity memory and various portable devices such as digital cameras. So dito na po nasa-save yung mga photos natin. Unlike kay manual na naka-film siya, for digital, we have SD cards. Okay? Yan siya. Medyo gusto. Okay. So, additional lang din, actually, those are the last topic na natin for forensic photography. Additional na lang natin, ito yung sa film speed natin, uulitin ko lang, kapag mas mataas yung number, ibig sabihin mas sensitive sa light. Kapag ka naman mas mababa yung number, less sensitive sa light. Okay? So, yun yung tatandaan ninyo. So, kapag walang liwanag, ang gagamitin ninyo na speed rating nung film ninyo is mas mataas yung number. Okay? Kapag walang masyadong liwanag, yun yung gagamitin ninyo. Pero, kapagka naman less na yung, let's say we have ample or enough light, then we can use around 100 or 200, which is just the normal. Okay? Yan po siya. So, we have the slow films, medium fast, and super fast. Photographic paper natin, these are our sensitive materials na. We have the photographic paper and then film. So, sa photographic paper natin, remember, ginagamit po ito for us to get the final product of our photograph or the positive result. Kapag negative result, film lang po yun. Kapag positive, we have photographic paper. So, types of photographic papers, we have chloride for contact printing, bromide for projection and enlarging. Pagka naman both contact and projection, we can use chlorobromide. Kung mga hindi na siya kailangan. So, yun po yung mga topics natin when it comes to forensic photography. Ang komplikado lang talaga dun is yung ating exposure. Exposure lang talaga. Yun yung maraming topics when it comes to photography. Kung hindi niyo nakuha yung exposure, dun talaga kayo mahihirapan. Basta sabi ko sa inyo, i-memorize niyo lang yung principle. The moment na na-memorize niyo yung principle, kahit na anong klaseng scenario yung ibigay sa inyo, hindi kayo magkakaroon ng problema. Basta i-memorize niyo lang yung principle. Kapag aperture, kapag F number yung pinag-uusapan, kailangan the higher the number, mas maliit yung opening. Kabaligtaran niya yung sa shutter speed. Sa shutter speed kasi, mas mataas yung number, mas mabilis yung shutter speed. Kapag ka naman sa film natin, mas mataas yung number, mas sensitive naman siya sa light. Okay? So, yung tatlo na yun, para yung asukal, gatas at kape. Hindi pwede na sobra yung isa. Hindi pwede na kulang yung isa. Kasi kapag kinulang yung bawat isa, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng magandang photographs. And remember, ang purpose niyan is to preserve the crime scene. Okay? So, yun po siya. Okay. So, anong subject na tayo? Forensic chem. So, those are po sa forensic photography. I do hope kahit pa paano medyo na-refresh tayo. So, forensic chem na po tayo. Visible na sa ending niyo yung presentation. Okay. Okay. Forensic chemistry. So, forensic chemistry ay 8 tanong lang po. Walong tanong nga lang po. Out of 100. Wait lang. Ang tama, 8 tanong lang. Okay, so 8 tanong lang yung manggagaling sa forensic chemistry. And yet, medyo marami yung kailangan i-memorize. Bakit gano'n? Kailangan aralin pa yung mga yun even though 8 tanong lang yung tatanungin sa forensic chemistry, the answer is yes. Because we do not know anong klaseng tanong yung lalabas doon sa exam. So, kahit na marami, sabi ko nga sa inyo, the subjects under forensic doesn't require you to really analyze the questions. It's more on application, it's more on memorizing, it's more on understanding yung mga docs. Kasi sabi ko nga, when it comes to forensic, that's is yan. Because we are talking about forensic chemistry, ang focus nito ay the preliminary and the confirmatory examination of the evidence found at the crime scene. So may mga topic dito na focus na siya doon sa ibang subject or ibang area. At ang focus na lang niya dito sa forensic chemistry is the preliminary and confirmatory examination of those evidence. For example, yung different kinds ng drugs. So, ang may role na nun, na aralin, na nagturo sa inyo nun, is the VDEC, na guys na yon, or sa subject na ng drugs, sa CBI. However, yung examination, ang focus nun is dito sa forensic chemistry. Okay? Yung types ng guns and gunpowders sa ballistics na yon. Pero yung examination or let's say the paraffin test, dito yun sa forensic chemistry. Okay? So, ang focus lang ni forensic chem is the confirmatory and preliminary test and then toxicology. Okay? So, let's start na po when it comes to forensic chemistry. Repetition is the key to mastery. The more na the more na paulit-ulit na binibigay sa inyo or tinatithing kayo, binibigyan kayo ng crash course, the more dapat nyo siya na namamaster. Because repetition is the key to mastery. So, skip na natin yung mga topic na na-discuss na natin kanina. So, okay. So, chemistry in general is a branch of science wherein it deals with the substances or the properties of the substances, ano yung mga changes na nangyayari on those specific substance or the laws or the that describe those changes. So that is chemistry in general. We are talking about uh, substances. Kapag nilagay na natin yung word na forensic, sabi ko nga sa inyo, so ang mangyayari na if we add the word forensic, it is already a branch of a branch of chemistry that deals with the principle of substances in connection with administration of justice. Okay, so once na nilagyan natin ng forensic yan, in connection na agad yan dito. Okay? So of course, we have the forensic chemist who analyzes the evidence that is brought from the crime scene and reach conclusion based on the result of the examination being done by the forensic chemist. Okay, so kinds of sample na meron tayo, we have the question and known sample. So pag question, ibig sabihin hindi natin alam yung identity ng mismo sample. Hindi natin alam kung saan galing, hindi natin alam kung anong klaseng sample yun. Kapag known sample naman, we know the identity and at the same time, alam natin kung saan galing. Okay? Next, we have the types of forensic chemistry examination. We have the qualitative and quantitative. Pag sinabi natin qualitative, ang tinitingnan dito is the identity of the substance. So, anong klaseng substance ba yan? Pag sinabi naman natin quantitative, gaano ka-pure yung substance na yon. For example, may nakitang white powder sa crime scene. Kung hindi natin alam kung ano yung white powder na yun, is it cornstarch, harina, what do you call this? Shabu. So, wala tayong pagkakakilanlan sa white powder na yun. Then, what we are going to do is to use a qualitative type of examination. So, nung nalaman na natin, for example, na yung white powder na yun ay shabu, then we can test for its purity. Okay, ano ba yung mga components nung white powder na yun or nung shabu na yun that makes it a shabu? Kung ano bang klaseng elements yung nandun or chemicals yung nandun at ilan yung percentage nila. Okay, that is quantitative examination. Pag quality, identification. Pag quantity, purity of the sample. Okay? So, stages in the practice of forensic chemistry. Pag sinabi natin stages, it is always in order. Course number one is collection or reception of a specimen. Laging tatandaan that when we collect a specimen, it should be enough. Okay, dapat palaging enough yung ating collection or yung sample na nakuha natin or yung specimen natin because as a forensic chemist, lagi nung gaya ng sinasabi ko sa inyo, hindi lang tayo nagkakandak ng examination. Hindi lang siya limited sa isa. Maraming examination yung ginagawa doon sa sample na nakuha natin. So kung ang makukuha natin na sample ay konti at kailangan pa natin mag-conduct ng examination, hindi na tayo makakakuha pa ng sample. Or, pwede tayong makakuha ng sample but it's already contaminated. So, first and foremost, the sample na kukunin natin, it should be enough doon sa dami ng examination na gagawin natin. Next, we have comparison standards. Always remember that your sample shall be compared to the other substance for analysis. Hindi pwede na ang kumuha ka lang ng sample na walang purpose. So, ang purpose nito is for identification and for comparison. Third, individuality. Lahat ng sample magkakaiwalay ng lalagyan to avoid contamination. Okay? Ma'am, pareho namang buhok yung nilagay namin dun sa lalagyan. Pareho ma'am ng kulay. Okay na yun na magkasama. The answer is no. Uh, different specimen shall be packed separately with the other specimen. That is the principle of individuality. To avoid contamination, yun yung purpose nun. And lastly, we have labeling and cleaning. Of course, to avoid tampering. And then examination of specimen. So right after the collection, magkakandak ng examination and the forensic chemist shall conduct different examination para dun sa ating specimen. And lastly, of course, communication of results. So, sino ba ang magkausap dito? Ang magkausap dito is the investigator on case and your forensic chemist. And then, court appearance. The forensic chemist will appear in court also as an expert witness. Okay? So, TS 3.1, recall the significance of forensic chemistry. So, that is under understanding level. So, easy po. So, sa principles ng forensic chemistry, we have 5. Law of individuality, law of progressive change, law of comparison, principle of analysis, and law of probability. So, pag sinabi natin na law of individuality, meaning to say, lahat ng object or every object, it's either mapa-natural, man-made, or man-made, it has an individuality which is not duplicated in any other object. Meaning to say, yung object na yan, may katangian yan na hindi makikita sa iba. That is the law of individuality. For example, nakita kayo ng isang t-shirt doon sa crime scene. That t-shirt, kahit na branded pa yan at maraming klase ng t-shirt na ganun yung brand, let's say Uniqlo, yun yung brand ng shirt na yun. Even though pare-parehong Uniqlo yan, meron at meron niya katangian na individual or meron lang siyang katangian na yung bagay na yun, yun lang yung meron na yun. Hindi mo siya pwedeng, pag kinopare mo siya sa ibang object, hindi mo mahanap that specific quality compared to the other object, even though pareho sila ng brand. That is law of individuality. Another, we have the law of progressive change. From the term progressive change, everything changes with the passage of time. Lahat nagbabago. Okay? From the word lahat nagbabago, especially yung mga biological evidence. Okay? So, yung laway, yung blood, yung semen, after few minutes, meron ng changes agad doon sa evidence natin. Next, principle of comparison. From the word comparison, only likes can be compared. So sa forensic chemistry, hindi mo nahahanapin kung ano yung pagkakaiba ng dalawang bagay. Ang focus na lang natin is the likes. Ano yung pagkakapareho nila? Okay? So, ulitin ko, ang tinitignan na lang natin sa forensic chemistry is the principle of comparison. Letter D, principle of analysis. The analysis can be no better than the sample analyzed. Tandaan ninyo, kahit na gaano kamahal or ka-high-tech yung examination na gagawin ninyo, if your sample is contaminated, it is useless. So first and foremost talaga, we have to make sure that the sample collected are not contaminated, they are properly sealed, they are properly labeled. Kasi gaya nga ng sabi ko, kahit na gaano ka-high-tech yung examination mo, pero contaminated yung sample mo, wala rin. Hindi siya magkakaroon na bearing. Okay? Then letter E, we have the law of probability. So sa law of probability, hindi palaging 100% chance. Tama yung magiging result ng examination mo. Hindi palaging 100% or palagi mong mahihit yung result na gusto mo when it comes to examination of your or examination of the samples. Okay? So those are the principles used in forensic chemistry. Ulitin ko, we have the law of individuality. Every object is different from any other object. It is not duplicated. Law of progressive change, lahat nagbabago with the passage of time. Even though yung pinakamatibay na bakal, kahit gaano katagal yan, meron at merong pagbabagong mangyayari dyan. Principle of comparison, ang hinahanap lang natin is palagi yung magkakapareho. Principle of analysis, we have to make sure that our sample is not contaminated. Then we also have the law of probability. Okay? It is by chance na makuha natin yung result na gusto natin. Hindi porket, for example, nagkanak tayo ng examination today. Then after a few months, may examination ulit na kinanda. We cannot assure na yung result ng examination na yon will be as the same doon sa examination na nagawa na natin. Okay? So, those are the principal used in forensic chemistry. And then next, we also have the significance of forensic chemistry. So, skip na natin yan. Legal aspect tayo. So, sa legal aspect ng forensic chemistry, number one is chain of custody. The moment na pinasa natin sa katrabaho natin, let's say investigator on case to the forensic chemist, palagi yung documented. Okay? So, lahat ng movement ng ating sample or ng evidence natin shall be well documented. At ang ginagamit natin doon is the chain of custody. So, ginagamit natin to para ma-avoid yung tampering ng evidence and ma-make sure na magiging admissible yung evidence natin sa court. Kasi pag wala tayong chain of custody, eh sino na bang humawak dun sa mga evidence na yan? Sino na ba yung nagpasakatahan na yan? Paano natin masisigurado na hindi na-tamper yung evidence na yan? So, really important ng chain of custody. Then, we also have the admissibility of evidence. So, magiging admissible yung evidence natin if it follows the rules on evidence and rules on court of the Philippines. Okay? So, kailangan nasunod niya yan. Then, expert witness testimony, of course, our forensic chemist also act as an expert witness. And siya po ay magte-testify kung ano yung ginawa niya examination at kung ano yung result na ginawa niya doon sa sample na binigay ni investigator on case. Ang testimony niya is objective, impartial, and based on scientific facts. Hindi po siya magiging bias. Okay? Ang sasabihin lang niya is kung ano yung na-receive niya na specimen, ano yung ginawa niya na examination at ano yung result. Limited lang doon yung sasabihin ng ating expert witness. And then, of course, we have the legal responsibility of the chemist. So, pag sinabi natin legal responsibility of a chemist, syempre, as someone, si chemist natin, since tatayo siya sa witness stand, mag-take siya ng oath. So, kailangan niya i-maintain yung integrity, accuracy nung sinasabi niya, dun sa written report, at kung sinasabihin niya verbally, and confidentiality and handling the evidence. So, any error or bias can lead to miscarriage of justice. Okay, so skip na natin yan. Physical evidence, so hindi na natin aaralin ito yung mga types of evidence because we want to focus on the examination. Okay, biological evidence, so we have blood. Components ng blood, you have the RBC, WBC, platelets, and plasma. So red blood cells, ang trabaho niya is to deliver oxygen. White blood cells is to protect our body from infection. Platelets assist in the clotting process. And then you also have the plasma, which carries the other three. Okay, so yung plasma yung nagdadala ng platelets, white blood cells, and RBC. Then we also have semen and seminal stains. So parts ng semen, so sa appearance, so we have viscid, gelatinous, and sticky. So after 1.5 hours, nagkakaroon na ng liquefaction. So due to enzymic action, odor is alkaline. Reaction is slightly alkaline. Quantity is 1.5 to 3.5 ml per ejaculation. And sperm count is 400 to 500 million per ejaculation. So farm cells, elements. So of course, we have the spermatozoa. Ito yung pinaka-importante yung dapat tandaan because the sperm cells carries the DNA, specifically the head part ng ating spermatozoa. The middle piece supplies the energy, and then the tail is responsible for its movement. Aside from sperm cells, meron ding epithelial cells and crystals of choline and lecithin. So, ulitin ko lang. So, the head part contains the DNA, the middle piece provides energy, and then we have the tail which is responsible for the movement. So, if a stain detects the presence of sperm cells, obviously, that is already a semen. But there are some cases na kung saan na yung stain natin, magpa-positive siya sa examination, ang madedetect niya that is a seminal stain, pero wala siyang presence ng spermatozoa. Is it possible? So the answer is yes. There are some cases wherein merong complete absence ng spermatozoa sa semen or seminal stains natin, and that is called azoospermia. Okay, so pag wala talaga ni isang spermatozoa, kahit na anong check natin under the microscope, ang tawag doon is azoospermia. If there is a low sperm count, okay, so merong presence na sperm cells, pero mababa dun sa normal or below normal, that is oligospermia. And when there are dead or immobile sperm in semen, ang tawag doon ay necrospermia. Okay? So those are the cases wherein there is an absence or low concentration of spermatozoa in seminal cells. Next, we also have hair. So, the hair naman ang tatandaan ninyo which part contains the DNA. Of course, that is the roots of the hair. So, dun natin makikita yung DNA. Then, another part of hair is the shaft. And then we also have the tip. Gunpowder and explosives. So, skip ko na to. So, natapos niyo naman na yung ballistic kanina. I do hope marami kayong na-recall na topics dun sa thorough discussion ni Sir Romeo. And then, ito na lang yung focus natin when it comes to gunpowder, yung diphenylamyl paraffin test. So, si paraffin test is for us to detect the presence of nitrates sa hands ng suspected person na nag-fire ng gun. Okay? So, ano ang positive result? That is blue specks. Okay? So, pag merong blue specks, ibig sabihin, merong presence ng nitrates. But, that doesn't mean na nagpaputok siya ng baril. Remember, we have false positive and false negative. Yun yung limitation ng paraffin test natin. So, kapag false positive, ibig sabihin, nag-positive siya sa paraffin test, even though hindi siya nagpaputok ng baril. Kasi nga, ang dinedetect lang ni paraffin test is nitrate. However, there are also some materials na nagko-contain ng nitrates. For example, fertilizers, explosives, sigarilyo, firecrackers, also some makeup, they contain nitrates. So, kahit hindi ka nagpaputok ng baril, pero that time, and then mag-undergo ka ng paraffin test, naghawak ka ng fertilizer, magpo-positive ka po sa nitrate. Okay? Magpo-positive ka sa paraffin test. That is false positive. Kapag false negative naman, yung person yung nagpaputok ng baril, pero nag-negative siya sa paraffin test. Paano siya magne-negative sa paraffin test? Magne-negative siya sa paraffin test kapag thoroughly naghugas siya ng kamay. Matagal siya naghugas ng kamay, nagsabon siya or nagpapawis siya. By those things na ginawa niya, possible na mawala na yung traces ng nitrate sa kamay niya at kahit siya yung nagpaputok ng baril, mag-a-appear po yun na negative sa paraffin test. Okay? So, yun yung test na ginagawa natin for gunpowder. Kapag ka naman, gusto nating i-check yung presence ng nitrate sa mga bagay or evidence items, we can use modified grease test. Ulitin ko, kapag evidence items, yung i-check natin for nitrate, ang gagamitin ay modified grease test. Kapag ka naman kamay, that is paraffin test. Okay? So, yung ating updated na ginagamit for us to check the presence of nitrate is this one. First, check na natin siya. Then, DNA. So, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. The DNA has 4 chemical bases. Bases yung tawag. And it has 2 pairs. We have the AT and GC. At GC, so you have the adenine, thymine. And then, ang magkasama palagi ay si cytosine and si guanine. Okay? So, yan yung palagi magkasama. It is always by pair. So, these are some biological evidence amenable for DNA. And then we also have forensic DNA analysis. Ilan yung forensic DNA analysis natin? Meron kayong 4. Okay? So, merong 4. So, yung 4 na DNA analysis natin, you have your isolation, processing of DNA, determination of variations, and comparison and interpretation. So, sa isolation, ano yung ginagawa? From the word isolation, so ina-isolate muna yung DNA dun sa mismong sample natin. So, for example, ang sample natin is semen, or let's say, yes, sige, semen stains yung sample natin. Saang part na nga ulit? Anong part, anong cell ng seminal stain makakakuha ng DNA dun sa mismong head ng spermatozoa. So, i-isolate mo na yon and then ipaprocess. So, magkakaroon ng iba't magkakaroon ng DNA analysis. Depende kung anong analysis yung gagamitin. Right after that, i-determine kung anong klaseng DNA and then comparison and interpretation. Okay? So determination ay sa comparison and interpretation, dito na pwedeng mag-match ng iba't ibang klase ng DNA from other people to check kung kanino magma-match yung DNA na nakuha doon sa ating sperm cell. So, nagagamit ko kadalasan sa mga rape cases if the semen is the available sample that we can have. Pwede din naman sa murder. For example, may mga uh, drops ng blood sa glass. And then, it can be suspected na yun yung blood ng suspect. Then we can conduct DNA analysis and match it to other people na nagpunta doon or present within the crime scene. Okay po? Okay pa ba kayo? Are you still there? Baka dahil nag-ulan, tinulugan niyo na ako. Hindi naman siguro, no? So later on, may Q&A po ulit for forensic. Okay, so types of DNA evidence analysis natin. So meron tayong apat. We have the PCR, short tandem, mitochondrial, and Y chromosome. So sa PCR natin or polymerase chain reaction, ang sinabi ko sa inyo noon, ang tatandaan ninyo is yung purpose niya. So kapag ang purpose ng analysis is for us to get more number ng DNA molecules, then we can use polymerase chain reaction. Kasi ang purpose ng polymerase chain reaction is to replicate DNA regions. So even though meron ka lang small, very, very small amount ng DNA, for you to get a huge amount of DNA, then you can use polymerase chain reaction. Kasi ang purpose niya, it works as a copying process. Para siyang Xerox machine. So, isang copy lang yung meron ka, pero kaya niyang mag-reprint ng millions ng number ng DNA. So, that is polymerase chain reaction. Kapag ka naman, ang tinitingnan natin ay bases. Diba? Yung apat na bases ng DNA. So, have our adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So, yung kapag bases yung tinitingnan natin at sequence ng DNA, so ang tawag doon ay short tandem repeats. Okay, ulitin ko, kapag DNA sequence yung pinag-uusapan natin, tinitingnan natin kung ilang beses lalabas si ATGC, then that is a short tandem repeats. Kapag ka naman, ang hinahanap natin is paternal ancestry. We are looking for the father, let's say, yung tatay, diba? Paternal, yung tinitingnan natin, sino ba talaga yung tatay ni Pedro? So, we can use Y chromosome. Si Y chromosome kasi, nakafocus lang yan in analyzing the male specific DNA. So, pag tatay yung pinag-uusapan, pag lalaki yung dinedetect natin o hinahanap natin yung paternal lineage ng isang tao, we can use Y chromosome. Okay, kapag ka naman nanay, then we use mitochondrial DNA. Okay, so yun yung apat na DNA evidence. Ulitin ko, apat lang yan. Kapag ka copying process, so we want to create multiple number of DNA, we use polymerase chain reaction. Kapag ka naman sequence ng bases ng DNA yung pinag-uusapan natin, then we can use short tandem repeats. Kapag tatay, Y chromosome. Pag nanay, mitochondrial DNA. Okay? Yan yung apat. Then, dangerous drugs, skip na natin to. So, matakal niyo yan. Natakal niyo na to sa vice and drugs. Ang ipofocus na, ang hinihiling ko sa inyong i-memorize ay yung kulay. Diba? Yung kulay sa test ng drugs. Okay? So, sa glass natin, yung glass natin is an important evidence, especially in the cases of traffic accident or robbery. So, ang titingnan lang naman dito is yung fracture. So, types of fracture, we have the impact point, the radial, and concentric. Ang unang lumalabas na fracture is the radial, followed by the concentric. Okay? Na tinedetect lang dito or examination na ginagawa sa glass, commonly, is kung ano yung properties ng glass na yon, magmamatch ba yung glass na yon doon sa glass na nakita sa crime scene. So, those are the things that can be checked doon sa glass fracture. Another example is dun sa sapatos ng suspect is merong pieces of glass. And then, tinatanggi niya na hindi siya galing sa crime scene. Eh, dun sa crime scene, merong glass na nabasag din. So, they can match yung sample ng glass sa crime scene at saka yung sample ng glass dun sa sapatos ng suspect to check kung hindi nga talaga siya nagpunta doon. Pag nag-match yun, there is a chance na siya ay galing sa crime scene. Okay? So, those are some cases na kung saan pwedeng magamit yung glass evidence. Textile fibers, ganun din. There are some things na pwedeng mapag-iwan ng fibers sa katawan ng victim or ng ating suspect. So, hindi na mamalayan na nag-transfer na pala yung mga fibers because those are small thread lang na pwedeng mapasa from one person to another. So, minsan nakakaligtaan na makita but fibers are also or can also be used as evidence. Minsan nga, nakakaligtaan na siya kasi nga maliliit or small detail lang siya. So, fiber transfer, paano nagta-transfer yung fiber can be transferred in two ways. Meron tayong direct at saka indirect. Pag direct, from one person to another, for example, victim to suspect or suspect to victim. Pagka naman indirect transfer, yung fiber, pwede siyang mapasa sa ibang tao using a secondary body. For example, hinakap ni Pedro si Maria, yung tapos si Maria, inakap niya si Juan. Yung fiber na galing sa damit ni Pedro ay napunta kay Juan sa pamamagitan ni Maria. So that is secondary transfer or indirect transfer. Okay? Next, tools and tool marks. So, yan lang naman yun. Tandaan nyo lang yung marks or yung classification of tool mark natin. We have compression, then we also have friction. Kapag ka walang talim or tulis, that is compression mark. May ulitin ko, pag walang talim or tulis, that is compression mark. Kapag ka naman merong scratches or merong talim or merong tulis, so series of scratches, that is friction marks. Kasi friction marks ang nakakapagbigay ng ganitong klaseng marks are knives, ice pick, may mga tulis or talim. Pero kung compression, usually mga hammer, mga blunt objects. Kasi natin blunt, those are tools na walang sharp edges. Okay? Okay, so, yan, binalikan lang natin yung mga types ng evidence na yun kasi ay, hindi ko na siya diniscuss ng malalim because those are DOTs naman, definition of terms. Now, I want you to focus on the examination. So, sa examination ng evidence, palaging merong dalawa, preliminary and confirmatory. So, sino ang mauuna muna? Ang mauuna palagi ay si preliminary, followed by confirmatory. Okay? So, sa preliminary, so ito lang yung mga madali ang test na ginagawa din sa specimen. Chine-check lang kung yun ba talaga ay nagpo-contain ng isang specific substance. Kapag confirmatory naman, okay, 100% ito na talaga yun. It conclusively identified that the substance is detected. Okay? So, types of examination conducted for blood. So, sa preliminary test ng blood, meron tayo ditong color test. Ibig sabihin ng color test, we are just detecting the presence of blood by color. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nilagay natin yung reagent dun sa sample natin at lumabas yung ganitong kulay, ibig sabihin merong presence blood. Pero hindi pa natin sure kung yung blood na yun ay galing sa tao o galing sa hayop. Okay? So, malalaman pa lang natin kung yun ay galing sa tao or sa hayop pag nag-conduct pa tayo ng another test. So, for preliminary test ng blood, so meron tayong 5. You have your benzidine, phenolphthalein, guaiacol, leucomalachite, and luminol. So, sa benzidine, ang kulay niya ay intense blue color. Pag phenolphthalein, you have rose or deep pink color. Kapag guaiacol, you have blue color. Kapag leucomalachite green, then of course, we have malachite green or bluish green color. And then kapag ka naman luminol, sa 5 na to, ito lang yung hindi nagbibigay ng reaction ng kulay, but rather, ang bumibigay niya ay luminescence. Kapag nagkaroon ng glow in the dark or nag-glow yung, yung specimen natin, ibig sabihin, that is blood. So that is luminol test. So ulitin ko, these are preliminary tests. Blood. Kapag nilagay natin yung reagent doon sa mismong sample, ito po yung reagent ha. Yan. Doon sa sample, magpuproduce siya ng kulay. At kapag ito yung mga kulay na lumabas, ibig sabihin, at the sample, the sample is possible na blood. Ulitin ko, preliminary pa lang tayo. Okay, kaya possible pa lang siya na blood. Hindi ko siya kino-confirm kung yung sample na yan ay talaga bang blood or hindi. Okay? So, benzidine, blue color, phenolphthalein is pink, guaiacol is blue, leucomalachite is malachite or bluish green, and then luminol test has glow in the dark or luminescence. Okay, confirmatory test. So, confirmatory test, number 1 na confirmatory test natin is microscopic test. Ibig sabihin, we have to check the blood under the microscope. Okay? So, titingnan natin kung ano itsura ng blood na yon under the microscope. So, since hindi lang naman tao yung merong blood, so we have to familiarize kung ano yung itsura ng human blood sa ibang blood ng animals para malaman natin or ma-confirm natin kung yung sample na yon ay totoo bang dugo. For example, nag-positive sa preliminary examination yung blood. Hindi pwede na preliminary examination lang yung gagamitin. Palaging gagawin si confirmatory examination. Kasi mas malakas yung bearing ni confirmatory examination compared kay preliminary examination. So, palagi kayong magko-confirm. Palagi, ulitin ko ha, palaging magko-confirm. So, under the microscope, ito po yung itsura ng human blood. And then, the other one is a bird blood. So, gaya nga ng sabi ko, you have to familiarize kung anong itsura ng human blood under the microscope. Another type of confirmatory test is the microchemical or microcrystalline test. So, ito naman, maghahalo tayo ng reagent dun sa sample natin. So, once na nag-react na yung sample natin, sisilipin natin under the microscope. At kapag nakita natin yung mga ganitong klaseng crystals, ibig sabihin, the specimen or the sample is really blood. So, dugo talaga siya. Okay? So, kapag Teichmann test, ang crystal ay rhombic hymen crystals. Ulitin ko, pag Teichmann test, ang crystal ay dark brown rhombic hymen crystals. Kapag ka naman acetone hymen, that is acicular crystals or dark diachronic acicular crystals. Kapag Takayama naman, hemoglobin yung tinitingnan natin. Okay? Ulitin ko, pag Takayama, hemoglobin. And kapagka naman precipitin test, ito na yung test na ginagamit natin to check if the blood came from animal or human. Okay? Ulitin natin. So, another examination for the confirmatory test for blood is number one nga is yung microscopic natin. So, isi-check lang natin yung samples natin under the microscope. I-check natin, or sabi ko nga, we have to familiarize the characteristics of the red blood cells under the microscope para ma-confirm if the blood is really blood. And then another is the microcrystalline. So sa microcrystalline naman, we have to add reagents dun sa blood samples, and then we have to check it under the microscope. Since microcrystalline yung test, yung reagent natin, kapag hinalo natin sa blood sample, nag-create yun ng crystals. At yung kulay at itsura ng crystals na yon, kapag nakita natin yun under the microscope, meaning to say, yung sample natin is really a blood. Or confirmed na siya na 100% na yun ay blood. Okay, so number one is the Tigman test. So sa Tigman test, ang itsura ng crystals natin is dark brown rhombic hymen crystals. Kapag ka naman acicular, that is, kapag ka naman acetone hymen test, ang itsura ng crystals is acicular crystals. Kapag ka naman gusto nating malaman kung merong presence ng hemoglobin yung sample natin, then we can use Takayama test. Okay? And for us to check if the blood came from animal or human, then we use precipitin test. Okay? And another test for us to check the blood type or yung grouping test natin. So that is blood grouping test. Okay? So those are confirmatory tests for blood. Next is confirmatory test or test naman natin for semen and seminal stains. Ulitin ko palaging preliminary at confirmatory. Hindi pwedeng preliminary lang. So first and foremost, we have the physical examination. If it is dry semen, yung clot natin, so magkakaroon siya ng stiff or starchy feeling or magkakaroon ng stiffness dun sa mismong clothing. Kapag ka naman ultraviolet light yung ginamit natin, then magkakaroon ng luminescence. Okay? Or mag-glow in the dark, na mag-glow yung ating sample or specimen. So, kapag ka preliminary test, yung motong na ginagamit natin is we have the PSA 30, and then sa PSA 30 kasi para na siyang pregnancy test. So, sa PSA 30, ang dinedetect niya is the amount of semen doon sa ating sa may mismo cassette. So, sa pregnancy test, kapag dalawa yung linya, positive na buntis, tama. Pag sa PSA or P30, pag nagdalawang line, ibig sabihin, positive na semen yung sample natin. Okay, so, kapag naman isang line, syempre, that is negative. Next, we also have the Florence test. So, this is the test din ito, but this one is preliminary lang. So, sa Florence test natin, under the semen, ang itsura niya ay dark brown, rhombic, needle-shaped, choline periodide crystals. Siguro naman at this time, memorize yun na itong mga to, ano. Memorize na ba? Pa-check nga. Memorize na ba? Parehang nga ako pag memorize na itong mga to. Dapat memorize nyo na itong mga to. Okay. So, another is Barberio. So, sa Barberio naman, slender yellow rhomboid crystals. Okay? So, yun yung Barberio test natin. Again, this is preliminary test for semen. Kapag Acid phosphatase naman, that is purple. Okay? Purple crystals naman siya. Gamitin natin sa preliminary test ng semen, we have the PSA or P30 para siyang pregnancy test. So, dalawang line indicates positive, pag isang line is negative. Sa Florence test, we have dark brown rhombic crystals, Herculean periodide crystals. Kapag ka naman Barberio, slender yellow rhomboid crystals. Pag acid phosphatase, purple. Okay? So, those are the preliminary tests for semen. Next is confirmatory. Sa confirmatory, microscopic ulit. The moment na nagkaroon ng presence ng spermatozoa, ibig sabihin, that is semen. Okay? Ulitin ko, kapag nagkaroon na ng presence ng spermatozoa, that is already semen. But then again, there are cases na kung saan walang semen. Okay? Next is we have the confirmatory test for semen. Yung Christmas tree stain natin. Sa Christmas tree stain natin, wala siya pinagkaiba doon sa confirmatory ay sa microscopic. Tinitignan pa rin natin siya under the microscope. Yun nga lang, may kulay. Okay? Yung kulay red, that is the head of the sperm cell. Yung kulay green or yung kulay blue, that is the tail. Okay? So that is Christmas tree stain. And then lastly, we have the rapid stain identification. So ito naman is parang pregnancy test lang din. Kapag dalawang line positive, pang isang line ay negative. Okay, so those are the types of preliminary and confirmatory tests for skin. Okay, types of examination for drugs. We have the screening test. So, ito yung usually na ginagamit sa pag kayo ay nagpapa-drug test. So, presumptive test lang din to. So, papatakan lang ng urine, yung mismong kaset. Ganun lang din. Pag nag-positive, dalawang guhit. Pag isang negative lang. Okay? So, sa confirmed for another preliminary test is the color test. So, ito, may table kayo niyan. Ano, doon sa inyong notes. Doon ko pa sa inyo pinamemorize ito. Ano, binigyan ko pa nga kayo ng mnemonic. Okay? So, sana nagagamit nyo yung mnemonic dito. So, memorize nyo lang to, the type of drugs. Ano yung test na ginamit for us to detect the drugs. And of course, yung color reaction, kung ano yung kulay. Diba? So, yun lang naman yun. Wala namang ibang explanation dyan. You just have to memorize nga lang. Okay? And then for confirmatory, dalawa lang naman yun. We have the liquid chromatography and then we have the high performance liquid chromatography. So those are the topics under POS 3.0. Lahat ng preliminary and confirmatory examination. Gaya ng sabi ko sa inyo, wala siyang masyadong explanation. It's just that you really have to memorize. Kailangan nyo lang talaga siya i-memorize, guys. Kung anong kulay, anong klase ng crystal, anong klaseng sample yung ginawa. Okay? Or ano yung reagent. Okay? So, those are, again, the topics for TOS 3. Okay po? Okay pa kayo? Okay. So, TOS 3.3, apply the procedure in the collection and preservation of biological evidence. Ito naman ay common sense lang po. Diba? Sinabi ko na sa inyo, you just have to avoid contamination. Okay? Ina-avoid lang natin na ma-contaminate yung sample natin because the moment na na-contaminate yung sample natin, kahit gaano pa ka-high-tech yung examination natin, it will be useless. Okay? The moment na na-contaminate siya. So, how do we collect and preserve blood? Depende kung basa yan or tuyo. So, kapag basa yung sample natin, kailangan natin siyang patuyuin. Kailangan natin siyang i-air dry. Okay? Hindi natin siya pwede i-pack ng basa. For example, yung nasa picture. Hindi natin yan pwedeng ilagay sa paper ng basa. Kasi, kakapit lang yung blood doon sa paper. Diba? Hindi magkakaroon ng contamination. So, mas maganda na naka-air dry. Paano namin patutuyuin yan? Diba? Sinabi ko na sa inyo, bawal hipan, bawal paypayan, bawal ibilad. So, i-air dry nyo lang siya, hayaan nyo lang siyang matuyo on its own. Kailangan lang i-avoid na yung area kung saan nyo siya ilalagay, hindi magkakaroon ng contamination. So, pag natuyo na, yung mismong ah, sample natin, tsaka natin siya ilalagay sa paper for packing and sealing. Hindi tayo gumagamit ng plastic, especially for biological evidence. Hindi tayo gumagamit ng plastic to avoid moisture. Okay? Moisture build-up. Pag gumamit kasi tayo ng plastic, magkakaroon ng moisture build-up. Especially kapag magkaiba yung temperature sa labas at sa loob ng crime lab. Remember, your samples shall be delivered in the crime laboratory for examination. Okay? So, paper yung ginagamit natin. So, kapag ka naman pools of blood, kapag there are different pools of blood na nakita sa crime scene, then we can collect it using swab. Okay? And then air dry, and then lalagay sa piece of paper. Kapag ka naman, huge amount of blood na umabot na sa point na pwede natin siyang kunin using syringe or dropper, then we can use this one. So kapag gumamit tayo ng syringe or dropper sa pag-collect ng blood, then we can preserve it using a test tube. Okay? So sa test tube na natin ito ilalagay. Kapag dry blood naman, sa mga huge items, for example, natuyo yung dugo doon sa kortina, o kaya naman sa sofa, or sa comforter. So, since those items are huge, then pwede na nating gupitin yung material or yung part na merong blood sample. Okay? Or blood stain. So, gugupitin na po yan kapag possible na gupitin. So, kapag ka naman yung sample natin ay nasa glass, pwede tayong gumamit ng swab with water. So, yung swab with water natin is babasahin lang natin and then kukunin natin yung sample nandun sa glass or sa table or sa wall. So, right after that, ilalagay lang din natin sa proper packaging. So, paano naman kapag semen? So, kapag semen or seminal stains, halos pareho lang naman kung paano yung sa blood. Okay? So, kapag pwedeng gupitin, for example, yung semen nandun sa comforter, nasa kumot, or let's say, nasa kortina, so gugupitin naman siya. Kapag naman yung semen ay nandoon sa glass, so we can use swab. Kapag nandoon sa flooring, sabihin natin na yung moist semen, hindi siya totally basa, ay hindi siya totally tuyo, then we can use swab. Okay? And then, kapag nasa condom, we just have to clip it. So, and then keep in a refrigerator. Again, bakit na nga siya na-refrigerate? To preserve the life of the spermatozoa. Kasi yung spermatozoa, yung indicator natin na yung sample na yun ay semen. Right? So, dried semen, ganun ulit. If it is possible to cut out, pwede naman natin siyang i-cut out. Kapag hindi, then we can use swab. Ganun lang naman yun. For example, merong dried semen sa walls ng CR. So, we can use swab to collect those samples. Then, ilalagay lang natin siya sa proper packaging. Collection and preservation ng hair, yung yung process natin ng pag-collect ng hairs, it's magkakaiba yung preservation, for example, or yung lalagyan niya, yung individuality natin to avoid contamination. For example, may nakita kang hair on the sofa, tapos nakakita ka ulit ng buhok sa lamesa. So, magkaibang packaging na po yan, anak. Hindi puwedeng ma'am pareho naman silang buhok, pareho naman ng kulay. Baka puwedeng isang lalagyan na lang. So, hindi po puwede. Okay, so different yung area kung saan mo nakuha yung hair. Different yung lalagyan niya or yung packaging niya to avoid contamination. And then, okay, so yung sa hair natin, usually, ang ginagamit yung hair kapag to check the presence of like, yung roots niya mismo. So kapag wala yung roots na hair, hindi na siya masyadong gano'n nagagamit sa evidence kasi wala na yung root. Yung root nandun yung DNA, 'di ba? So hindi na siya masyadong gano'n ka-valuable kapag wala yung root. So yung chine-check naman natin na ginagawang examination for hair is only microscopic examination. So chine-check lang natin yung kulay, yung length, yung width, and so on, as well as yung hair roots. Okay? So before we put the hair doon sa mismong microscope, kailangan muna natin siyang linisin using alcohol and water. Okay? So take note of it. Then, collection and preservation of walls. So, skip na natin. Yung fibers. So, sa fibers natin, it is the same. We can treat it the same as the collection sa hair. Yun nga lang. Since mas maliliit yung fibers, so we can use tape, we can use tweezers, we can use a vacuum. Okay, so those are the things that we can use in collecting fibers. Then, ang examination na ginagawa natin sa fiber ay tatlo, dalawa lang yata. So, number one is burning test. So, sinusunog yung fiber to check kung ano klaseng fiber yan. Is it mineral, animal, or vegetable? Kapag ka naman fluorescent test is kine-check yung type din ng fiber under the ultraviolet light. And then, we also have the microscopic examination to check or to confirm kung anong klaseng fiber ba talaga siya. So, magkakaiba po yung itsura ng mga fiber under the microscope. Okay? Next, collection and preservation of glass. Ito lang naman yon. Walang gagamit ng hands sa pag-collect ng glass, even though you are wearing gloves. Kapag nag-collect kayo ng glass, palaging gagamit ng forceps or tweezers. Okay? So, bawal po yung naka-gloves. Another, saan natin siya ilalagay? Ilalagay natin siya sa container na kung saan meron siyang padding and then naka-properly sealed. Bakit kailangan ng padding or soft material? Para hindi madurog yung glass in transit kapag tina-transport na natin siya papunta sa time lab. Okay. Hindi rin tayo pwedeng gumamit ng glass container. Kapag tayo ng glass container, nilagay natin yung glass, magagasgas po yung glass at magkakaroon ng contamination. Okay, so do not use glass containers. Ulitin ko, ang gagamitin lang natin ay container na merong padding or merong soft material para hindi madurog lalo yung glass natin in transit. Okay? Collection and preservation of tool marks. So, for impression, di ba nga nasabi na kanina sa photography, kapag major cases, photograph and then casting. Pag minor cases, kahit photograph lang. So, yung impression na preserve natin siya using the process of casting. So, mulage yung tawag kapag tumigas na yung casting material natin. Yung casting material natin, ang tawag dito ay plaster of Paris. So, from powder, mag-add tayo ng part ng water, magiging ganito yung consistency niya, and then ilalagay natin siya dun sa mismong impression. Then, after few minutes or 2 hour, magso-solidify siya and that is our moulage. Okay? So, yan siya. That is the faithful reproduction of an impression. And then, how do we collect tool marks? Ganito lang yan. Ng tools. Yung mga tools natin, kapag kaya siyang i-collect ng maayos, we have to collect it properly. Then, we also have to make sure na mag-iingat tayo dun sa mga tools natin kasi may possibility na pagka careless tayo sa pag-collect, masusugat tayo and makakontaminate yung mismong evidence natin or mismong sample. Kapagka naman, full marks, kadalasan photograph lang. Okay, for example, merong compression mark sa may pintuan or sa doorknob or may mga stration or gas-gas dun sa tool mark kasi pinilit na buksan gamit yung kitchen knife. Hindi mo pwedeng baklasin yung buong pintuan at dalhin yung doorknob doon sa crime scene, ano? So, ang gagawin lang natin is photographs and then marks lang or we have to sketch kung ano yung itsura ng mga markings and then that's it. Okay? So, may mga ganong instances naman. Pag hindi kaya. Pero pag kayang dalhin yung isang sample na merong tool marks, then pwede naman siyang dalhin sa crime lab. Then, last topic for forensic chemistry, we have forensic toxicology. So, for forensic toxicology, ang tatandaan niyo lang dito ay yung pinagkaiba ng uh, biological and chemical poisons, and another is yung different kinds ng poisons. Okay? So, pag sinabi natin toxicology, it is a branch of science that deals with poisons, yung treatment, yung origin niya, yung effect niya sa tao. Then you also have poison. Pag sinabi natin poison, it is capable of producing harmful effect on the body. So cases that involve toxicology, we have traffic violation, drowning, drug abuse, and homicide or suicide. So, 3 main subdisciplines in the field of forensic toxicology. Pag sinabi natin postmortem, so postmortem deals with the testing of body fluids of a deceased person from the word postmortem. Then we also have forensic drug testing. So, ang focus naman niya is to detect the presence of drugs sa mga living individuals. Kapag postmortem dead po, kapag forensic living individuals, pagka naman yung performance, ibig sabihin, this studies how alcohols or drugs affects the behavior of a person. Okay? Behavior of the person. Classification of poisons, you have to memorize this one. Pag irritants causes irritation, asphyxians, oxygen delivery, okay, leading to suffocation. So, kapag carbon monoxide yung pinag-uusapan, it is asphyxiant, okay? And then, corrosive agents, destroy tissues, hepatotoxic, liver, neurotoxic, nervous system. Okay? Check nyo rin yung mga examples, ano? Memorize po yung mga yan. Pulmonary agents, from the word pulmonary, sa lungs yung tama. So, it can be chlorine gases. Pagka mutagens naman, DNA. Okay, mutagens, DNA. Nephrotoxic is kidneys. Hematopoietic is blood. And then kapag teratogens or fetotoxic, birth defects or harm to the fetus. Okay, so these are the different classification of poisons. Then we have biological and chemical. So pag biological, it came from, take note, living organisms like plants, animals, bacteria, or fungi. Kapag ka naman chemical poison galing sa synthetic substance. Okay, tandaan, Kapag bio, galing sa living organisms. Pag chemical, galing sa synthetic or man-made poisons. Okay? So, two types of poisoning natin. We have from medical point of view and legal point of view. Pag medical, we have acute, subacute, and chronic poisoning. Pag acute, short period of time lang, na-take niya yung poison like seconds ago. After that, patay na siya. Okay, that is acute poisoning. For example, natuklaw ka ng the venom of king cobra. So, after you just few, or you take silver cleaner, ininom mo yung silver cleaner, that is corrosive. Just within few seconds, pwedeng masunog yung internal organs. Okay? Pag sa bakit naman, so hindi siya ganon kabilis. So it's in the middle of chronic and acute poisoning. So si chronic poisoning kasi matagal, gradual deterioration of function of tissues. So either taking several doses or long intervals, so produces toxic. Ibig sabihin, matagal yung duration bago makita yung effect ng poison. Kaya siya chronic poisoning. Kapag acute naman, short period of time. Bilis lang. And then, sa legal point of view, you have accidental, suicidal, homicidal, and undetermined. From the word accidental, without intention to cause death. Suicidal, voluntarily taking the poison for the purpose of taking his own life. Homicidal is given willfully and ang intent to cause death to the victim. And undetermined, hindi pa alam kung ano talaga yung reason kung bakit nagkaroon ng poisoning. Next, actions of poisons. We have local, remote, and combined. Kapag local, kung saan tumama yung poison. So sabi dito, the chances or disturbance produced on that part which the poison comes in contact. So kung saan nadikit yung poison, doon yung part ng action ng poison. For example, kung natapunan ka ng muriatic acid sa hita. So yung effect nun is mababrain yung hita mo, and that is local action of poison. Kapag ka naman remote, ibig sabihin malayo. Ba? Malayo yung part ng effect ng poison. For example, yung belladonna. Nag-take ka ng belladonna, ininom mo siya, pero yung effect niya is nag-dilate yung pupils mo. Nag-dilate yung pupils mo, lumiit yung iris ng mata. Yan. Ay lumaki yung iris ng mata. So, that is malayo. So, tinake niya sa bibig, pero yung effect is sa mata. So, malayo. Ang tawag doon ay remote action of poison. Kapag ka naman, pareho, at the same time, for example, yung phenol, ininom mo yung phenol, nasunog yung lalamunan mo hanggang yung bituka mo. So, at the same time, nagkaroon ka na ng convulsions and dilation of the pupils, that is combined. Okay, combination ng remote and local action of poison. Okay? So, yan siya. Ulitin natin, kapag local, kung saan nagkaroon ng contact yung poison, dun yung effect. Kapag remote naman, malayo. Kapag ka naman combined, pareho. Parehong merong local and parehong merong remote. Then, sa antidote natin, so meron tayong klase ng antidote. You have mechanical, chemical, and physiological. So, sa mechanical natin, it removes the poison without changing it. Okay, so pwede tayong gumamit ng mga emetics or cathartics, yung mga pampasuka or pump ng poison, stomach pumps. Pag chemical naman, binabago niya yung poison. So from harmful, nagiging harmless yung poison. Kapag physiological naman, nilalabanan niya yung poison sa katawan natin. So those are the kind of antidotes that we have for forensic chemistry. Okay, so yun po siya. Ulitin ko, sa hinaba-haba ng discussion na yon, 8 questions lang po yung manggagaling sa forensic chemistry. Okay, mag-share ako ng Q&A. I-share ko ulit yung Q&A kanina. Kasi merong halong forensic chem yan. Okay. Visible na sa inyo yung question? Okay, number 8. Answer. Wala kayo. Natalo. Okay, if a chemist observe an intense blue color before adding benzene and hydrogen peroxide that is present, so color test to ng blood, this is preliminary test. So, possible blood stain. Okay, possible blood stain. Number 10 nga, photography to eh. Sagutin nyo nga yung number 10. An undercover investigator wants to take surveillance photographs of a suspect from a far distance without attracting attention. Okay. So, that is using telephoto lens for distant shots. Okay. Wait lang. Number 37. Okay, so which staining technique colors sperm heads red and teal greens? Okay, that is Christmas tree stain. Correct. How about number 45? Number 45? Mm-hmm. Okay, correct. Since gray siya, gray shade that is normal exposure. Number 57. Okay, we are not using plastic for biological evidence because it traps moisture and creates contamination. Correct. Nakailan na tayo? Dalawa pa lang yata yun. Wala to. Number 64. A set of footprints, a glass shard, and a piece of fabric are all unique in their microscopic characteristics. The uniqueness allows forensic experts to trace them back to a specific source. That is correct. That is law of individuality. Okay, 76. Which statement is best differentiates chemical poisons from biological poisons? Okay, the correct answer is Charlie. Chemical poisons interfere mainly with biochemical reactions. 79. Eh, totoo ba? Removing a poison without chemically changing its structure. Without nga ni. Without. Okay. Correct. That is Charlie. Mechanical antidote. So, example nito is yung mga stomach pump. So, hindi niya binabago yung effect ng poison, but rather nire-remove lang niya sa katawan ng tao. That is mechanical antidote. Kapag ka naman, binabago niya yung effect ng poison, nag-take ka nung antidote na yon, and then from being harmful, naging harmless na yung poison, that is chemical antidote. Okay? Sagot kayo ng sagot ah. Ito, 86. This one is photography. Answer. Okay. So, kapag naka-manual mode yung camera, hindi papasok yung light unless pinindot mo yung shutter button. Okay? Hindi, ulitin ko, hindi papasok yung light unless clinic mo yung shutter button. Kasi nga naka-manual mode yan. Okay? 99. A victim developed kidney damage after prolonged exposure to cadmium-containing industrial waste. Which poison? Sigurado kayo, kidney, hindi liver ah. Kidney po, kidney. Pagka liver, hepatotoxic. Kapag ka kidney, that is nephrotoxic. Okay? Pagka lungs, pulmonary. Pag central nervous system, neurotoxic. Okay? Right? Okay. So, those are yung walong tanong na galing sa exam ninyo during P2 exam. So, 8 questions will be coming from forensic chemistry. Madali lang naman siya. Tama ba? Madali lang siya. Madami lang talaga. So, yung 8 questions na yon, yun na sana yung pinaka-bonus nyo dapat sa forensic chem. Okay? So, tayo po ay magre-resume ng 7 p.m. Same link na lang din. So, I'll give you time to rest and then by 7 p.m., i-continue natin yung discussion for lie detection. Okay? Then, after yung discussion sa lie detection, meron ulit Q&A. Yung galing ulit dito sa exam. Para ma-check natin kung okay ba or na-retain or na-recall ba natin yung mga topic. Okay po tayo doon? Okay, so same link na lang tayo mamaya, ano? So, 7 p.m. onwards tayo sa lie detection. Konti na lang naman yun. So, I'll give you time muna to rest for a while. Okay? So, balik po kayo ng 7 p.m. Bye-bye!